So I was able to come into your classes today and see whole group social studies and science lesson, and we've been talking a lot about whole group. So it was great that I was able to come in and see. And one of the things that I know you've been working with Julianne and Aaron with me is tone and outward excitement for the lesson. And when I was in there, tone was very positive, and you demonstrated outward excitement for the lesson while executing instruction and while redirecting student behavior. So how did that feel?
It felt really great, yeah. On Friday, I had debriefed with Juliana and Ms. Michaels, and I actually put, kind of like we have our taxonomy things, I put their strategies they taught me in the back of the classroom, so it's really nice having that resource there, so I can constantly be looking there because it's 6 steps that I'm following, so I can be redirected to there so that I can stay really positive during the whole group.
So let's talk about, what do you think the purpose of prompting is? So let's talk about what the purpose of prompting is.
I think the main purpose is to scaffold the students so we know that they're never opting out.
When do you prompt?
When they don't know an answer?
Yeah, so today in the lesson, there was 2 students I really keyed in on 2 prompts. Did you remember what happened with Simon when you called on him to answer a question about mammals?
He couldn't think of an example of a mammal.
Right, and then what was your next prompt after that?
I asked for someone to give me another example?
Yes, you called on 4 different students to give you other examples of mammals, and they all were able to give them to you. Then you went back to Simon. But what does that do to the level of questioning?
It makes it seem easy?
Yes, so you reduce the rigor too quickly.
Okay.
So that's what I want to get at today, Carly, is that when you're prompting, yes, you're prompting, but you're reducing the level of rigor too quickly.
Okay.
So this would go back to the overall concept to break it down. So when you break it down, you want to maintain rigor. You don't want to immediately go to the easiest level of questioning or ask a friend or let me give you an example. You really want to think about, okay, this is the question I really want to get kids to answer. If they do not get this answer, the next thing I have to do is break it down with better prompts. Does that make sense to you?
Definitely.
So, for example, let's go to Simon. Think about Simon. You asked him for an example of a mammal, and he couldn't give you an example of a mammal.
Right.
So then you can say, Simon, tell me what is a mammal. Define mammal for me, Simon. So then you see how that maintains a level of rigor? So you might write yes.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like, what are some characteristics of a mammal?
Right, so perfect. So you can go right there. What are some characteristics of a mammal, Simon? And then have him list some characteristics. So now, Simon, think about your animal that you gave, an animal that you want to think about, and it has to match one of these characteristics. Tell me, Simon, now, what do you think?
Okay.
So let's break this down a little bit more, you and I. So say he gives you an example that's not a mammal at that particular point. What might you do next?
Depending on what the example was.
Well, let's make up one. This thing one he might give you.
So say he gave me fish.
Okay.
I would probably say, well, we were talking about classification, so how would you classify a fish?
Right.
And knowing Simon, he would probably say they're cold-blooded vertebrates. We'd say, okay, well, is a mammal cold-blooded? Or maybe that would be leading. But I'd say, well, how is a mammal classified? As a warm-blooded vertebrate. Okay, there's one difference there, so a fish can't be a mammal.
So your next area of focus then is what? So what is our next area of focus then?
It's definitely breaking it down as far as prompting goes.
Yep, while maintaining
the rigor.
All right, great. So let's take a look at the lesson for tomorrow.
I don't think I have that.
I have it. I brought a copy for you.
Okay.
Yep, I brought a copy for you, and I actually have a copy for me.
Okay.
So if we want to think about next steps and able to apply that, now that we already have the lesson for tomorrow, what might you do in order to make sure you're applying and break it down?
Well, I could also feed into, the PD that we had on Tuesday.
Okay.
Because for controlling the game, I could probably obviously I don't have this when I'm doing my rapid fire, but tonight when I'm rehearsing the lesson at home, I could anticipate weaknesses, so anticipate things kids are going to struggle on, and plan out those prompts ahead of time.
Okay, let's pick 1 or 2 and do 1 or 2 together. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay, so what's one question? Let's think about one question in the lesson plan tomorrow where kids might struggle or have difficulty with.
Okay, should we do it for the hook?
No, let's do it in the actual lesson.
Okay.
Where do you think they might have some difficulty if you had to predict?